Well, we decided right before we hit the record button that we got to talk about Danny Jansen. I'm kidding. Jack, our Just Baseball show for Tuesday, August 27th. You are in.
Denver.
What is your purpose?
Yeah, I just wanted to see the mountains and hang out. Just wanted to struggle to breathe when I walk around. I just love it. So,
Yeah.
no, I was mid road trip. We were making the move to Florida, but I think the Marlins have a new outfielder who should be coming off the bench today as we're recording this. We'll see. So obviously, really excited to be out here to see my good buddy debut, and got another buddy with me that we've talked about this for a long time. It's pretty surreal, but it's been really fun. I'm splitting a hotel room with my buddy Adam, and we are here to watch Griff debut. Like every time I start to talk about it, I start to just trail off. When he called me and told me, I think I just said like congratulations 8 times and didn't know what to say. Like
Yeah,
it's
dude, that's
bizarre.
yeah,
Last time we
that's
were here, like
awesome.
last time I was in Denver, I was watching Shohei Ohtani in the home run derby. Like I just the fact that we're here for him is crazy. So very excited about that, but also excited about all the fun things we're going to talk about in this episode. A lot of fun topics.
Yeah, we're going to get into Griffin Conine here in a moment. Before that, I do want to tell you about our friends at Game Time real quick because Game Time can help Arm Leighton out get tickets to see one of his best friends debut in the major leagues because they are now an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball. It makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, but the more people in Denver that find out that Griffin Conine is making his major league debut, the prices are going to go through the effing roof. Killer last minute deals on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, list goes on. You get the lowest price guarantee, panoramic seat views, the all in pricing toggle feature. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code JUSTBASEBALL, all caps, one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code JUSTBASEBALL for $20 off. What time is it? It's game time. It's
Anytime.
also time for Griffin Conine to make a pinch hit plate appearance. I want to like actually spend some time on Griffin Conine, the player, and I know that you're going to hate it, but Griffin Conine has an 825 OPS in AAA this year. This guy is hitting 270 and he's a power threat. This cat, 2021, 36 home runs in the minor leagues. He was, what was it, third in minor league baseball in home runs in 2021. And I think the other three were Kansas City Royals. It was Bobby Witt Jr., Nick Prado, MJ Melendez, and Griffin Conine as the
Yeah.
big four in minor league baseball and homers in 21.
Yeah, and it was a showdown for a little while. And it was cool because at the time, MJ Melendez's father was the head coach at Florida International University. Jeff Conine, of course, Griff's dad, was the assistant coach there helping out. And while they were doing that, it was the first year that they brought Jeff on. They're having this home run battle, and they're just going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And MJ ultimately, ended up winning that battle. But it was really cool to follow and watch. And I know for them it was very awesome too. And MJ, is really settled in at the big league level now over the last couple months too, which has been nice to see. But yeah, it's pretty surreal. I think from just a baseball perspective first. The Marlins outfield is in a weird spot where I think they're just trying to figure out who can stick and what they've got. And Griff was going to be a minor league free agent after this year. So guys performing. He's been aside from the players that they've acquired, of course, Davison De Los Santos and Agustin Ramirez. He is the home run leader for them, up until they were acquired in AAA. So he'd been their most productive batter, one of for most of the year. Plays good defense in the corner. He's done a lot of things this year that I think people wanted to see, right? Get that strikeout rate down to a reasonable clip, hit for a little bit more average, continue to walk more. I mean, everything that people wanted to see, he's done. And I mean, just to see how far it's come, where, last year there was points early in the season where he was really struggling in his third stint in Double A. And, now is at the point where he's had stretches where he was the hottest hitter in minor league baseball in AAA. And then he's had, an overall season here where he's been well above average in, the one step that's away from Major League Baseball. So naturally, that guy should get a shot. So he's earned it, man. And, the story, just the fact that his dad, won 2 World Series with this team is crazy. But it's it's just amazing to see him earn this and really mash his way to a big league debut for a team that is now young and fun, right? Like, see what Kyle Stowers can do, see what Connor Norby can do, see what Griffin Conine can do, and just throw these guys out there and have fun and be young. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the offense has been better in Miami since they've gotten younger, because I think guys are just playing hard and, are playing with something to prove. And I know Griff's going to bring that same energy.
Yeah, man. I mean, Norby, we talked about it on the weekend roundup. It was, 6 extra base hits in his first 6 games with Miami Marlins. Nobody's done that before. How well do you know your buddy's baseball reference page is the game that we're about to play right
Oh
now?
gosh.
Career OPS in the minor leagues.
Oh no. I'm gonna say 840.
829.
Damn.
How
Okay.
many home runs in the minor leagues?
Oh God. Is it okay, let's see. I'm gonna say 120.
128. Great
Okay.
guess. Excellent guess. How many minor league games has he played?
Oh God.
Mhm.
A lot. I'm sure if you ask him, he'd probably say it feels like 3,000.
Yep.
He's been very, knock on wood, been very available. And that's guy works his ass
So
off. I mean,
that's my point, man. He works his ass off. This guy's played 585 minor league
yeah,
games.
I had no idea what it was gonna be.
I am an hour removed from having the processed, skippy, extra crunchy peanut butter shit on toast. When was the last time this guy put like sugar in his system?
So
Like
it's funny
anything
you say that.
processed?
It's
Yeah.
funny you say that. It was just this is the craziest part. Road tripping down to move my life to Florida, meet my girlfriend halfway because she has the dog, and I'm not gonna just fly to Florida and say, "Hey, get down there." We gotta be in that one together. But I said, "All right, I have some caveats. I want to do the baseball trip." So we talked about. I want to stop at a couple spots. I didn't realize that Griff's team was going to be, Jacksonville was going to be in Nashville at that time. So it worked out on the path. I was more excited to see, the Florida State League and some of these new draft guys. So it worked out. We had spent the weekend in Nashville, and I was able to talk Griff, and I think it was mostly his girlfriend, to be honest, but into trying Raising Canes. I've never seen him eat fried anything. He's punted my birthday cakes every year. Like, he will never, my mom will hand him a slice, he'll hand it to somebody else. Like, he's never, ever, ever eaten junk food. Now he's loosening up a little bit, a little
Couple
bit.
follow-ups. You still do a cake every year?
No, no, this was like, up until probably 3 years ago. Dude, it's my mom. If we have a birthday dinner, she's gonna do it.
Okay.
She's gonna do it.
Yeah, like I don't think I've had a cake in a long time, I'd say. I feel like my girlfriend might have picked one up in college, but that's really like the only cake time. Now, Canes, exceptionally overrated.
Yeah, I mean, how many different ways can you fry chicken?
No,
You know
they
what I'm
do it one
saying? Like,
way. They
it's
serve
good. It
one
was
thing
good.
and it's fine.
Like, it's fried chicken. It's good. Like, it's fine. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
But, I just want to like emphasize, and I know like everyone's gonna say this guy works hard, this player works hard. Of course, you got to work hard to get to the bigs, but
Yeah.
you can also testify. There's been plenty of guys that go through the minor leagues, skate on talent, and don't quite find their footing in the big leagues because that's where the hard work really needs to separate. And sometimes there's other guys that have had to work harder to shore up these things and be available and maximize their talent. And I think it's just been incredible to see how hard he works, how he's been able to push and push and push and get there. I've always had that appreciation. We cover the minor leagues. We have appreciation for how hard it is to climb,
Yeah.
but seeing like, what it is required for him to get here, stretches where you don't even know if it's going to happen.
Right.
And just things working against you, right? Like, your team starts to maybe fall out of favor with you a little bit. There's other prospects who are younger, more exciting. You're not even at the top of the lineup. You're not playing every day as much. I mean, like, there was all those things happening, and he just kept his head down and kept hitting through it. And I mean, this dude, my other buddy here that's with me, Adam, will do the yoga with him. I always tell him I'll meet you after. But I mean,
Mm.
like, stretching, working out, like, it's just insane the amount of dedication that it's taken to be available, to keep getting better, and to reach this point. So, and I can't tell you how happy I am for him. And there always was that added pressure. Your dad played in the show. Are you going to
Yeah.
be like your dad? It's Jeff Conine's son. I mean, like, his Duke teammates used to call him Jeff's son as a joke because of how much it would come up. Like, he mashed his way to the big leagues by himself, and it's just amazing to see that. And I know it's got to be. I can't even imagine what he's feeling right now. I haven't really fully caught up with him about that yet, and I know he's still kind of in on another planet right now. I know he's excited.
Yeah, he's probably the best example, at least, for you in your baseball life, of watching somebody try to be present in this thing. And being present is so fucking hard in minor league baseball. Like, it is the hardest thing to do. Be present, attack each day, because again, you lose sight of the end goal so often.
How
So,
often do you see guys checked out in the minors?
dude, so
And I don't blame them. I'd be the most checked
no.
out. You don't get paid a lot. Once it seems like the dream is becoming less and less likely, it becomes so much easier to check out,
Yeah.
especially when you're not making that much money. You're away from your family, you're away from your friends. You can't really build a personal life anywhere too much. I remember like he was traded, he's bounced around. Like you're in Beloit, you're in Pensacola, you're in like that's the other part too. I've seen so many different guys checked out, and that's the thing that's floored me more than anything is just like how he is never checked out. And those are the guys that are 27, 28 that make their debuts.
They
It's
get
the
their
guys that
shot.
just, you can't make them check out. There's nothing you can do to make them check out because they're just built different.
There's a guy that just got up in Indianapolis. I'm not sure if you saw this over the weekend. Brady
Beagle,
Feigl. Yeah, Brady
Feigl.
Feigl, left-handed reliever, turns 34 years old in December. And you're fascinated by him. He was a reliever for the Texas Rangers in like Double A in 2019. COVID hits, misses 21 with injury, 22 indie ball, 23 indie ball. He's 32 years old at this point when he's on year 2 of indie ball. He goes to the Dominican Winter League. He shoves, gets an opportunity to get back into affiliated ball. He's like tail end of the bullpen in AAA. All of a sudden, he's striking dudes out and he's not walking anybody. And now, 4 months before he turns 34 years old, he's getting his shot. And his mantra is, it's the best job I'll ever have. And he picked that up in indie ball because a former Louisville closer, Lincoln Hensman, who said, same deal, man. I'm pitching in indie ball because it's the best job I'll ever have. The guys that make it are the guys that make it that are not the cream of the crop first round pick, like top 100 prospect. The guys that gut it out and get there when they're 26 through, 33 years old, are the ones that either love it and it is the best job that they know they will ever have because they get to play a kid's game and make a little bit of money doing it, or the guys that manage to stay disciplined and stay on top of their shit for years with no immediate returns. And I
Yeah.
think you have two marquee examples of that. And it's really cool to watch both kind of pan out. And this is the time that they do around September
Yeah.
1. And it's so exciting. And, it's a good story, but dude, Griffin Conine can actually fucking hit. Like he's a
Yeah.
major league hitter, which is
Yeah.
very
I mean, huge power, as we talked about. His 90th percentile is 107 miles an hour, and he's got more in him than that. It's just been more of a focus to make more consistent contact this year. But when he's dialed in, I mean, the 90th percentile, and he's barreling as much as he should. He can get it up to 108, 109, which is elite in Major League Baseball. Especially if he's facing righties, like it seems like he's mostly going to do, the numbers against righties are even more ridiculous. And again, like cutting down the chase, making more contact than ever, and continuing to slug is basically everything you wanted to see from him. And he's going to play good defense in either corner. And dude, I mean, absolute rifle for an arm. So that part is cool too. And I think the Marlins could use some help defensively in the outfield with some of the things that we've seen out there. So the last thing I'll say about him, and I think this kind of really sums it up well, is that he we were joking. I had just left Nashville and he was raking through there. Like, and so usually if you're raking, they keep you in the lineup, and he was off on Sunday and they'd found out that a 40-man spot opened up. And so he joked like, it's me, I'm coming up, like as a joke. And I laughed at it. I said, that would make a lot of sense. But of course they're probably going to use that 40-man spot on, a righty, a pitcher. Yeah. Waiver claim with a funky release who's getting racked in AAA, which they should. The Marlins have been doing that. So they're kind of the Rays template. Right. And he's like, I'm just going to get a lift in today, hitting the cage and, just take the day off. It's fine. And then he found out as he's getting his lift in during his supposed day off that, he was off because he's going to the big leagues. So like, this is a guy that just like, he's not even going to coast on the day off. Like he's just always going to get it in. And I think that's why he's here. And there's a lot of other players that work really, really hard and, maybe don't get there. And that's where the talent kicks in, right? He was a second round pick for a reason. He's got a lot of talent, but there's a lot of first round picks and second round picks that never even get to AAA. So that's where the talent and the hard work meets together. And we'll get him on the show when he's settled in a little bit. I'm excited to just kind of hear how it's felt for him and, the whirlwind and all that good stuff. But it's been pretty wild to watch the journey. Last time I split a hotel room with my buddy Adam here, we were visiting him, Griffin in South Bend. So it's just crazy to see that progress from that high A, visit that we did then.
A little bit better of a food scene in Denver than South Bend. There's an Asian spot that I love. I'll text it to you after this. Also, Griffin, I'm not sure if you have any interest in listening to a baseball podcast the day after you make your major league debut, but your arms were looking great in that call-up video. Holy hell, man. I mean, the lift was working.
Well, it worked out. It worked out well for him that it was right after the pump.
Right after the pump, he was wearing the cutoff hoodie tank type thing. Like he had the delts showing, and it worked. So you can appreciate that. Another guy, Dylan Cruz, is making his major league debut. By the time that you're listening to this, he will have had made his big league debut. He's in the same outfield as James Wood against the New York Yankees here on August 26th, 2024. How awesome is that? Bit of a different story, but relatively speaking, this guy went through a little bit of a grind as opposed to a Wyatt Langford and a Paul Skeens. This guy was in the minor leagues for several months longer than either of those guys. Langford hasn't played a minor league game in 2024. Cruz was really starting to settle in the minor leagues. We mentioned a 4-hit game last week, and Dylan Cruz, the book on him, one of the greatest college baseball players of all time. When you look at the numbers, this guy played 196 games at LSU. He had an 1187 OPS. The slash was 380, 498, 689 in 196 games, 58 homers, 184 driven in, walked more than he struck out. And in the minor leagues, man, 135 games, 275, 351, 455 slash is an 806 OPS, 30 doubles, 18 homers, drove in 97, swiped 29 bags. This guy started slowly, then got better at AA, then got to AAA, started slowly, then got better. I think it's going to be an acclimation process for him. But man, I feel like he's righting a lot of those, minute concerns that you had about Dylan Cruz coming into this season.
Well, talk about this is just another example of the talent mixing with the hard work. Of course, he's a freakazoid, right? But it's not like he's 6'5", 230.
No,
like he's a pretty standard build. He's strong. Like don't get me wrong, but he's maxed out his build.
He's
but also
5'11", 200.
Yeah. And like when you see how far he's come defensively, we were talking about that on the call up. Like, in college, he was always fine defensively. But if you see where he's at now, just having the context where you don't always have that context. And of course, when you grow up with a player and then you can see them progress, I'm going to have that context, but you don't want to have that like the bias to what you're only able to see. But we were able to get more context with, Trey Morgan, who was his teammate at LSU and worked with him in the offseason. He just kind of talked about how getting reps in the outfield really like set the tone for him because he saw the way that Dylan Cruz, how meticulous he was and how detail oriented with everything on how he's going to get his reads and work out there. To me, like, yeah, Cruz has shored up some of the concerns with swinging and missing his sliders and his path and all those things. But we kind of knew that he was going to be able to do that. It's so easy for a guy like Dylan Cruz to not be that dialed in on his defense in center field, right? Like this is one of the best, as you said, college performers of all time. He fell to number 2. And still somehow now when you look at it, like it makes sense because Skeens looks like he's, built from another planet, but like he fell to 2. Like that's how insane of a prospect he was. And this guy still is working his ass off to become an impactful center fielder. And I can't tell you how much that means for his outlook overall, because if he hits the way that he can hit, like his top end outcome, now he's a 5-tool superstar. But, in the realistic world where not everybody attains their top end outcome, this elevates his floor and his just well-roundedness so much, right? Like if he's an 830 OPS guy for his entire career, that's fantastic. But now doing that with plus defense, which I know you can speak to from what you saw in AAA and center field, that now turns into a player that's one of the best center fielders in baseball, right? Like that's going to be a 4.51 player every single year. So just seeing that side of it is really impressive. But then also you can see offensively, if you kind of look at like the rolling numbers, he just has gotten better and better and better, whether it's swing decisions, whether it's contact rates, whether it's slugging, every single time you check in. So, I think that really is a testament to the work and not a guy that was going to skate by on natural talent. That clearly the natural talent, he was a first round prospect out of high school. The natural talent clearly worked for him, in college. Not that he didn't work hard then, but
Right.
I think he quickly realized with that tough pro debut, relatively speaking, I got to kick this thing in gear. And he did.
Right. Now, you expect him to match Langford step by step at the end of 2023. I'm trying to go back and like look at it through that lens. It's, oh, he and Wood are going to be debuting on the same day because, like Wyatt Langford's hitting 400 in his first 20 games out of college. Like Dylan Cruz is going to do that. No, development is not linear. But the fact that both of these guys got here in what, less than a full season of minor league baseball is a testament to how good college baseball is now, how
Oh,
good
yeah.
those two guys are now. And I like that you brought up the defensive thing. And the Trey Morgan conversation could not have come at a better time because I just got done watching him for a full week. And we just kind of sat there and were like oohing and awing together on that Zoom about that guy's first step. The closing speed's awesome. He's a really good runner. But the way he breaks on a ball as soon as you hear the crack of the bat is like, nobody should be getting that read that quickly. His reads are immaculate. And you can speak to this a little bit better than I can, but that feels like 70% of the battle, if not more. That first step.
1,000,000%. It's the first step, and usually the first step's going to coincide with being able to take a good read, right? Because if your first step is correct and comfortable and quick, you're probably going to track the ball better. There's guys that don't even move that well that can still play a good center field just because their first step and their routes are so good. And Dylan Cruz is the type of guy that can just see it off the bat differently, like because of the work that I think he's put in. So that side is huge. I don't know with Young and the whole situation there, like what they're going to do. And they have mixed in some reps and right. But I ultimately think this is a guy that should be an everyday center fielder, a really good one. And again, the range of outcomes are so exciting. Where we talked about, there's 30 home run potential here, but he also is going to need to lift the ball more. That's the one nitpick here. And I do imagine that there's going to be some elevated ground ball rates as he just feels it out. And there's some path things that he could probably clean up. If you look at the spray charts, he could pull the ball in the air more consistently. He does struggle to pull fastballs in the air, and I just think it's a slight body path thing. But it's not really much of an issue because we've seen him hit balls on a line 114 miles an hour to dead center. But it's just in terms of achieving his maximum ceiling, the 30 home runs, he's going to have to pull the ball in the air a little bit more. But what I love about Cruz is even if he doesn't achieve his ceiling, he's going to be 20 to 25 home runs. He's going to hit for decent average. He's going to walk, and he's going to play great defense in center field. And the other aspect that he worked hard on and added to his game is go look at the stolen base logs in college. They're shockingly kind of low. He has been very present on the base paths this year. And what'd you say, 26 bags now? I knew it was at least 25.
This year, 25 and 30 attempts. He was 10 for 12 in AAA. But this guy, 25 for 30 in 100 games in minor league ball this year. 25 for 30. In 196 games in college, he was 23 for 28. So he's nearly, he's exceeded it at this point. So he's totally leaning into this thing. I'm with you, dude. Like, threat for 20 to 25, that's what, 60th percentile outcome? Threat for 20 to 25 homers, playing good defense in center. And it feels like, good feel for the strike zone.
Yeah, that was the one thing that didn't immediately translate. Everyone's like, they're talking about his 2010 vision or whatever. And like he has x-ray vision, never swings at a ball, whatever. He was very patient. And I think a lot of that was just because he knew that he wasn't going to get pitched to too much.
Also, if somebody has better than 20/20 vision, they should be doing something a little bit more impactful to society than playing baseball. That's my thought.
If they have like just X, they were like saying he has basically like X-ray vision. So,
yeah, it's like if you have a superpower with your eyes, you should probably serve the greater good.
Yeah. So not quite the superpower, but the swing decisions have been a lot better and a lot better of late. So like that definitely has been something that he's settled in with as well. And if you look at like his last 50 games, striking out only 18% of the time, walking at an 8% clip. But again, the swing decisions were solid. I just think pitchers were kind of going after him because he's mostly hitting, at the top of the order, hitting leadoff. So that impacted the walk rate a little bit. What's interesting is, he's kind of rolling to a big league debut here where he has been striking out more over the last 4 or 5 games. That's why I think it's really funny. For whatever reason, the Nationals promotions get out. I think it's just because Grant Paulson does such a good job. The Nationals promotion comes out while they still play a couple more games. Same thing happened with James Wood.
With Wood,
just happened with Dylan Cruz.
When they were playing Indy. You remember that? I texted you. I was like, Wood's in the lineup tonight.
But I was like, Graham Paulson's like he's as legit as they come. So like he's getting called up, but yeah, he's still playing in AAA. Same thing happened with Dylan Cruz. So his final AAA game, and I'm assuming he's never going back there. 0
Right.
for 4, 2 Ks, and then he's gonna go to the show.
Yeah, dude, it's bizarre, man. And like you were watching Wood just fully knowing that this was his last game in minor league baseball because it was reported on Saturday. He was in the lineup on Saturday night. I literally texted the Rochester announcer, Josh Wetzel, who does a great job. I was like, you guys are gonna have a lineup change. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's like, no, this is our lineup tonight. Oh, okay. How about that? So yeah, James Wood, Dylan Cruz, you know what? One more game as a Red Wing. It's their send off. It's their farewell. So cool with it. Question, last one on the Cruz front. In 2025, what is the outfield? Is it Wood, Cruz, Young, or is it Wood, Cruz, free agent?
Ooh. So this is really just a Jacob Young question.
It's a Young question because Young can play a good center. Is Cruz the right fielder in 2025? Does he get his first elongated look in the big leagues in right? Or is it, hey, Dylan Cruz is our center fielder and we're going to go find a corner power bat and Young is going to be a fourth outfielder?
I think that the latter. At least that's what I would do. Like I
That's
don't
what I
know
would
what
do.
they would do, but Jacob Young to me is a really, really good fourth outfielder. I think, not allowing your superstar potential player to continue to develop in center where he's going to make the most impact,
Yeah.
even if he's a slightly inferior or even like full tick inferior defender in center field. That's one of those situations where unless you're down the stretch here and Young is Brenton Doyle out there and Cruz is looking more average and you're somehow competing for a playoff spot, like that's where you favor the development and I think Cruz is going to be so solid that it won't matter. Also, the Nationals are going to have a lot more money to work with. I think they're going to look at this core and yeah, go get that corner masher. So I think that makes the most sense. And Young in a fourth outfield, and I think it could be an elevated fourth outfielder, right, where you're still finding ways to get him in the lineup a little bit more than the average one. I think that's what makes the most sense to me.
Two more minor leaguers that we got to talk about. One that is set to make his major league debut. He's making it on Monday, so you're listening to this after he faces the Chicago White Sox. But 24-year-old Ty Madden, the right-hander for the Tigers, is making his major league debut. Madden, the numbers are not good at all this year. I don't want to say that that's entirely misleading. I don't want to say that his dominance in the front half of his last couple starts is entirely misleading either. Ty Madden this year in 18 starts with AAA Toledo, 79 innings, a 7.97 ERA, 100 hits in 79 innings. He's K'd 102. He's walked 40. So that's 11 and a half strikeouts per nine, 4.5 walks per nine. You've seen it. I've seen it. Ty Madden over the last month has been untouchable the first time through a lineup, and maybe even the second time through a lineup. And then homers start to creep in.
Yeah.
This guy in 79 innings in AAA this year has allowed 17 home runs. The ERA is close to 8. Doesn't mean he's a bad pitcher. Stuff like pitch by pitch stuff wise, I mean, this guy can run it up to 98 miles an hour. And that mix, when it looks good, when it's right, he can get major league hitters out. I have zero doubts about that. My question is Ty Madden getting through 6 in Major League Baseball in 2024? I think the answer is no, unfortunately, because I love this guy.
Yeah, and he's got the talent, right? And this is it's funny, that might be the theme of the podcast. Like I don't like outing like information or whatever, but this is one where I think or like the source of information, but this is one where I think it's very, very fine to do so. My good friend Mike Rothenberg, who was his catcher in the minor leagues and was a catcher in the Tiger system before retiring and going to work in the front office for the Diamondbacks. And I was asking him about Madden. I was just saying, like, what do you think about him? And he said, the stuff's good, no doubt. But what really impresses me is how smart he is and how hard he's willing to work in terms of like the preparation and the execution and just how he can optimize his stuff more. So that's why the struggles have been a little bit surprising to me, and I just think that it's hard to shift that in the middle of the season. I have confidence that in the off season, knowing that he's one of those guys that really likes to dive into it and is open minded and a really smart pitcher, like can figure out maybe why opponents were hitting below 200 against him in the first inning, but then by the time you get to the third inning, opponents are hitting 325. Like there's got to be something there from a sequencing perspective, from the way he's executing or not executing, that stands out. The reason why he's getting called up with an 80 ERA is, the Tigers, they have a lot of confidence in how they can help guys at the big league level. We saw the same thing with a struggling Matt Manning, who did get up there and then has looked better. And this is a more talented arm, I think, than Matt Manning at this
It's
point.
one guy. It's Chris Fetter. You want in-person work with Chris Fetter. It's
Yep.
essentially pitching lessons every day.
Exactly.
With Chris Fetter.
And they have a tough decision that wasn't going to be a decision. They were going to add him to the 40-man no matter what, but 2020 draftee, he's Rule 5 eligible after this year. So this will allow them, I think, one, to, like, if they like what they see and they think they can help him a little bit, even more reason to say, hey, okay, we're not going to trade him. But if they have a 40-man crunch or something and they don't love what they see from him here, then maybe he's trade bait. And there's plenty of teams that are going to line up for a first-round talent that still has flashed really impressive things. Dude, I watched him. I texted you. It was so funny. He was pitching against Griffin's team. Yeah. I was watching him pitch against Jacksonville. Turned in one of the weirdest stat lines I've ever seen. I think he struck out the first 7 guys.
That line is insane. Like that line.
Yeah. Finished with 5 2/3 innings, 12 hits, 6 runs, no walks, 11 Ks.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest line I've ever seen in my life.
I want to walk you through like his last 6 starts, because they're all kind of like that. There was a real blow up against Louisville. 2 2/3, 10 hits, 7 runs, K'd 4, walked 1. 5 1/3, 7 hits, 4 earned, 5 Ks, 2 walks. But then 6 innings, 3 runs, 9 Ks, no walks. 5 2/3, 12 hits, 6 runs, 11 Ks, no walks. 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 8 Ks, 1 walk. 6 1/3, 4 earned, 9 Ks, 4 walks. The Ks are there. He's clearly beating guys, and those are racking up early.
Whiff numbers are great.
Yeah, but like none of those are good starts.
No.
Which is so bizarre. I wonder if he goes designed short in the big leagues. If they say, hey, you're starting the game and you're getting us through 3 innings, I could see that being a plan of attack with him.
Yeah. And just diving into it, like specifically, slider's a plus pitch. Fastball is a fine average big league fastball.
It's hard.
The problem is when the changeup, which flashes above average, and the curveball aren't there, which he has not had this year. Both are strike rate below 50%. He's just fastball, slider, cutter. And second time through, you start to, approach that a little bit differently, and you find some more comfort and say, okay, beat me with the changeup. And he hasn't been able to. So I think that's a big part of it. If he can find that I still think there's a 4-starter here. And especially fly ball guy, you're going to put him in Comerica. Definitely helps. I'm excited to see, how working with Fetter can really help. But they already have a ton of arms. So this will be a fun kind of audition and help them figure out what they're going to do. I wouldn't be surprised if they move an arm this offseason, because I still like Gibson Long a lot. Mm-hmm. I think he's ahead of Madden. I think he's ahead of Mize. I think he's ahead of some of these other guys. I think Gibson Long's really good. So they're going to have an interesting decision to make at the end of this year, and this helps them make that. So I think they're going to be pretty keyed in on each start.
How about a Troy Melton? Like, Melton
good too.
Is a legit.
Jaden Ham has been rising quickly.
That's the thing, man. Like, these are all serviceable big league arms. The question is, who's got the ceiling? Who's got the mid-rotation upside instead of the back of the rotation upside? And I think that will kind of help dictate what their plans are moving forward. You have, I don't want to say pocket aces here with Job and Skubal, because like Job hasn't thrown a pitch in Major League Baseball yet, but you have
good chance at it.
Yeah, like you have two of the more tantalizing talents in Major League Baseball on the mound, in Tarek Skubal, Jackson Job. How do you fill out the 5? Let's find that out. And I think they're trying to find that out with time at now. Last minor league guy that we got to talk about is Mr. Cam Smith with the Chicago Cubs. If you don't know him, 14th overall pick this year out of Florida State. Cam Smith started a little slow out of the gates, and then he decided to rattle off 6 straight games with a homer before a promotion to High A South Bend. This guy is having an out-of-body experience right now, but it's somehow sort of kind of valid, because this is who he is, man. He's a dog, and he's a hell of a hitter. One of the better hitters in the class.
Peter asked me, who's the one guy in the draft that you feel like you're just higher on than everybody else? And it was Cam Smith. I mean, that was the answer. And I don't know if I was expecting that. And I said that amidst the slump out of the gate, the slow start professionally. Smith just got promoted to high A, as he said, like the obviously, he homer 6 times in a row. It was a record for Myrtle Beach, but it wasn't just that. He looks comfortable at third. He's not chasing at all. He's making a lot of contact, and these home runs are to all fields. We knew that. That was a big part of why I thought he was a top 10 bat or top 10 prospect in this class. But the most shocking stat of this whole thing, through that stretch of 6 games where he hit 6 straight homers, or 6 games in a row with a home run.
Yeah.
So in that span of 6 games, he hit 6 home runs and he swung and missed a total of 4 times. I don't care what level you're at. Like, I don't care where you're playing. If you have more home runs than swings and misses in a stretch of 5, 6 games, that is out of this world crazy. So Smith is clearly dialed in. I'm excited to see how he adjusts to South Bend. And, if he finishes the year with a strong stretch in South Bend, who knows? They might go send him to double for a couple of games there too. Like, we were seeing these guys climb really quickly, and there's just so much polish there. Said it was Matt Shaw all over again, and I think it might be Matt Shaw all over again for Cubs fans.
It's funny, like you feel like you may forget that stat a couple months from now. You're going to remember it for a handful of years. I promise you. If I bring up Cam Smith to you in 2029, 2030, you're going to say there was this stretch he had right after he got drafted where he had 6 homers in 6 games. And over that stretch, only swung and missed 4 times.
Yep.
Those are the stats that for some reason just etch into my brain. And I think
Yes.
etch into a lot of other people's brains. I remember Robert Griffin III during his Heisman year at Baylor. I think it was through 4 or 5 weeks into the college football season. This guy had thrown more touchdown passes than incomplete passes. And I remembered that for years because that's such a
How's that
mind-boggling
possible?
thing to hear. It's how is it possible?
Well,
And the
there's
6 homers and 4 whiffs is mind-boggling to hear.
yeah, there's something about the dichotomy of the like mundane like failure you're supposed to kind of have happen pretty frequently versus the ultimate success, which is like
Yeah.
touchdown home run versus just like incomplete pass, one swing and miss.
Right. It's
That,
not interception. It's
no,
it's not strikeouts. Like it's swing and miss. It's
swing and
you
miss.
had to like throw it away. You had to throw it out of bounds.
So that part's absurd to me. So really excited to see him keep going. We'll do a draft check-in on the call up,
Yep.
checking in on all those prospects, but we'll do something later too on the Just Baseball show. As like the next prospect report will be a little bit more draft driven. Interesting thing is you're not seeing many high school guys play because of the way that it lines up with the complex seasons now with the draft being later. So it's the bridge league and you don't get stats on that. So hard to check in on the high school guys, but it's been so fun. It's a good year, I guess, to have a college heavy draft because we're getting a lot of updates with just a lot of college bats performing quite well out of the gate.
No doubt. We're going to get to some big league stuff here to wrap in a moment. Before that, quick break. A couple of positive updates on the Padre front before we get to 2 relatively negative updates and then a mixed bag type thing to cap us off. Darvish is kind of back, sort of kind of back. He just got activated off the restricted list. However, he still is on the 15-day IL. I think this IL stint is for elbow inflammation, but he previously landed on the injured list with a groin strain. Darvish was dealing with a personal family matter, so hoping that all's okay on that front. But he is off the restricted list, and he's going to try and build up and join the San Diego Padres and join the starting rotation for the home stretch of the year. And we've got about 5 weeks to work with here before the end of the regular season. On Sunday, Darvish threw 3 simulated innings at Petco. What you assume happens now is he goes on a rehab and he will follow that classic 45, 60, 75 pitch progression across 3 starts. And we could be looking at him back first week of September. I think that's how it's going to line up here, especially if he's throwing 3 simulated innings off the bat. Like if he saw 5 hitters, that's baby steps. He saw 13 hitters apparently with 3 up downs. That's a ton. And oh, by the way, Mr. Fernando Tatis sprinted in the outfield on Thursday in San Diego and took BP with the team on Friday. They're hot. They're going to get bolstered here in a matter of a week or 2.
Oh man, what's interesting with Darvish, and of course, I'm not trying to like make light of what could have been a very serious and unfortunate situation. So it's never worth it or anything like that. And again, like echoing your sentiment there. But he didn't miss time with an injury, right? So it's or anything really substantially bad there structurally. So it's 56 innings that he's thrown this year. And if he's building back comfortably, you'd imagine he'd be pretty fresh, right? Again, I know the baseball thing comes second, but just from a now looking at that as he's back and you're hoping everything's settled, he's only thrown 56 innings this year. He's going to build back up. And he, like most years, he's throwing 190 or whatever, and then getting to the playoffs where now, like, he might be pretty fresh in the playoffs, assuming he's built up properly.
And he had time to kind of hang on the shelf with the groin strain. He had
Mm-hmm.
time to kind of hang on the shelf with the elbow inflammation too. Like these are, yeah, two different injuries that land you on the injured list. But I mean, he didn't look good in his rehab start in high A, but he went long in that rehab start in high A. So it felt like he was right before he went on the restricted list. I am curious to see what that elbow feels like in his first couple of elongated rehab starts because elbow inflammation is terrifying. It always
Yes.
is. Whenever I see elbow, whenever I see forearm, whenever I see shoulder, I'm scared. But with a guy like you, Darvish, who it feels like is made of elastic, I'm a little less scared. And I'm
Yes.
with you. That's a huge thing that it's only 56 innings to this point. If you get 80% of what Darvish can be at 36 years old, this rotation got better.
Yep. Oh yeah. And this team already looks great. We already talked about the bullpen, how fortified it is. He helps the rotation without a doubt. And then, I mean, adding Tatis to that lineup could be potentially pretty darn scary. So while you were mentioning rehab outings, I know you guys probably talked about DeGrom's return, but I just wanted to add the data points because I was just looking at it on my plane ride
Sat
to
99.
Denver. He got to 99.7.
Wow.
The stuff has looked like DeGrom again. I just wanted to mention that quickly because I figured I don't think it was put out anywhere because he was in Double A. So it was Double A rehab, so it's not on Savants or anything like that. Um, him versus Josh Mears, it's not very fair.
No.
And if you don't know who Josh Mears is, look up the Fangraphs page. Some of the best power in the minor leagues, but struggles to make contact at points. Just the fact that I watched that Mears that bad, that was just very, very unfortunate, like unfair. But great to see DeGrom back and looking like DeGrom. I just seeing him sitting 99, pretty much for the most part, and that slider back where it was in the low 90s. Man, you just it's one of those things you probably take for granted a little bit, being able to watch this guy pitch and you get it back. And it's just so special to see this guy on the mound. So that was one thing I just wanted to add. Like just even a Double A rehab appearance just got me giddy. I'm excited for next year, and hopefully we get 150 innings at DeGrom.
The Rangers minor league pitching situation is hilariously
Cool.
awesome. I know that Scherzer was scratched from his rehab, but the fellas being teammates again in Round Rock, Kumar and Jack Leiter, that makes my heart happy, dude. Like the college
Yeah.
baseball fan in me is doing backflips. I'm like, yes.
No, I can bet you that they're both very excited about that. I was able to ask both of them about that, and like for them, it was a foregone conclusion. Whether it was going to be at the big leagues or wherever, like they're both just so confident in themselves. They're just like, oh, we'll be together. We're going to catch up to each other at the top somewhere. And here they are in AAA. And what's nice is it's not like Jack Leiter's struggling either. We talked about it. He has been dialed in. He's looked as good as he's looked as a professional pitcher. And Kumar Rocker, who just joined our top 100 as David Festa graduated, is joining him and obviously throwing quite well as well. So future's bright in Texas, which is crazy to say when they just won the World Series. Down year this year. But you got to feel good about what's ahead for them.
And it's not like Kumar's just in the late 90s or at 100. This dude's 69. He's had a very nice return from injury.
Yes.
It was so easy. I'm sorry. It was just like total layup. Okay, let's go to Jordan Montgomery here. Fascinating comments. And I'm going to just read off some quotes here that I pulled. Max Cerullo of the Boston Herald sat down with Jordan Montgomery when the team got to Boston, the Diamondbacks, over the weekend. J-Mont said, quote, I don't know, obviously Boris kind of butchered it, so I'm just trying to move on from the offseason and try to forget it in regards to his free agency process, his free agency journey this offseason. More, he said he was very interested in signing with the Red Sox, but he said he was unaware of an offer from the Red Sox to his knowledge. So Boris put together a response. Quote, I saw what Jordan said. I know what it is to be frustrated with this game. As a former player, I feel for him. But I'm also a lawyer with obligations to my clients, including former ones. so I cannot discuss what happened or the decisions Jordan made unless he gives me permission. If he gives me the green light, I'll be happy to talk about it. I've been doing this for over 35 years. I relay all offers and relevant information to all my clients and act at their direction. They make all decisions. We wish Jordan well. Blake Snell also chimed in. He sat down with Andrew Baggerly of The Athletic to talk about this. Snell said, quote, "My experience with Scott has been great. He told me everything that was happening, all the offers I got. So for him to just get bashed for what I believe is false, that's not fair at all. I really strongly believe that." When asked about Montgomery's tough time, Snell responded, quote, "He signed the deal that he ultimately wanted to sign. He has the choice. I don't know what other deals he was offered, but I know everything that was offered to me. It's just sad that he thinks that way when I see Scott as a very honorable man." This kind of goes back to the Casey Close, Excel,
Yeah.
Freddie Freeman thing where Doug Gottlieb, by the way, I'm not rooting for the University of Wisconsin Green Bay men's basketball this year. Doug Gottlieb said, without any sources, that Casey Close withheld Atlanta's offer to Freddie Freeman. That's not true. I wouldn't believe that Scott Boras withheld offers from Jordan Montgomery. Do I think Scott Boras did a bad job this offseason with Jordan Montgomery, with Blake
Sure.
Snell, with Chapman, with Bellinger? Absolutely. Yeah, I think he royally screwed the pooch. But for Jamont to insinuate that Boras was doing something sly and to his disadvantage is just not fair to Scott Boras and the capital that he's built over 35 freaking years doing this.
I can't believe I'm here defending Scott Boras, but here we are because again we've got to talk about fair and when we talked about Casey Close and that situation, which by the way, if there was one situation where it would be more likely to be willing to try to withhold an offer for more money, it would probably be the Freddie Freeman contract
For
instead
sure.
of the Jordan Montgomery contract, who I still thought should get paid, but it didn't work out. Neither of those guys are going to give up their career where they're making I don't know what they make, but they make a lot of money, hundreds of millions,
Yeah.
and they're getting deals done for billions by the time they're fully done. I think they've both probably already eclipsed that amount. But like, why would you risk that all for one deal to squeeze out a few extra bucks or do what you want to do? Like that ends your career, no matter how much credibility you've built. Like no, Boris and Closer, they're not going to do that, and that's why it was so easy to have that story come out and squashed with Gottlieb. And Montgomery didn't say it, but to even kind of insinuate it is silly. I wanted to talk about it because I didn't even realize those layers to it. I just thought it was interesting where I feel like Montgomery has been pointing fingers like everywhere but himself.
Yeah.
That the thing that really stood out to me before even the back and forth and him insinuating kind of that his offer may have been withheld, just seeing him say that Boris butchered it. Yeah, I do kind of agree that I fully agree that Boris butchered it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know what you're signing up for. Like that's something that Boris has done plenty of times when the deal's not there, for a long-term offer, he's going to pivot to that. And you have to know that that's an option. Beyond that, you willingly signed that contract with Arizona and you willingly hired Scott Boras as your agent, knowing that he's going to be a guy that operates a little bit differently. The other thing that I don't love is that before that, he had that complaint about it's like pitching in the jungle in Arizona,
Mhm.
right? Like, and I think that was around the time that they moved into the bullpen or just before. And it's like, again, you willingly signed here. Like you willingly signed in Arizona. Did you not do research to know how hot it gets in there or what it's like when the roof's closed or whatever? Even if it sucks there, like, you got to throw better. Other guys are is every single starting pitcher getting racked for them, or is every other arm saying it's too hot? The away team, I've never seen one opponent complain about that. Maybe there is someone to pull it up and say, "Oh, look," but
Sure.
okay. If they did, then it's even more reason I can play both sides of that. Then Jamon should have known. But like, so it goes either way. My thing is just, I don't like seeing somebody struggle and then point fingers like everywhere else. And, I've tried to embrace a new rule of not saying anything or tweeting anything that I wouldn't say to a player. But
Yeah.
like, I think it's pretty fair here to just say like, hey man, you're extremely talented. You should have gotten a bigger contract and
Yeah.
you earned, a long-term deal. I get it didn't happen. but I don't think it's anybody's fault other than Jordan Montgomery's that he's not throwing well this year.
Correct.
And I think that's all it's got to be. It's not the jungle that is Chase Field. It's not your agent butchering it and not giving you, the offers that you might have had.
Yeah.
By the way, Boston ain't an easy place to pitch in either.
No.
So I just don't get it. And it's been disappointing to see from a guy that, I think has been consistent, respected in the game and solid. And, has pitched for a lot of organizations that, I think, would probably only say positive things about him. So it just seems like this is the first real serious adversity he's faced as a major leaguer. And
Yeah.
I don't know if he's handling it in the best of ways.
No, I think he's handling it in a very poor way, Jordan Montgomery. And my thing is, he already said this when he fired Boris and went to Wasserman. Like, he already said it.
The point was made. That's
The
all
point
you had to
was
say.
made. Like, you already said it without having to actually talk to a reporter and say that this guy butchered your free agency. You made that abundantly clear. Once you switched agents, put it to bed. Pitch
After a disappointing deal. You switch agents after a disappointing deal. Anybody?
So clear whose fault it is.
Yes.
So clear.
And that's where it's like, again, I've had instances, like we've had back and forths on Twitter, let's say, with people or whatever, where you want to get that jab and you really want to get it off, right? Like, because you're pissed off. But like, you got to be a professional at a certain point. And
100%.
like, and that's where I've just been surprised because Jamont's been a pro his entire career. Like, I mean, the Yankees don't keep you around that long. The Cardinals don't trade for you and keep you around. Like, those are two organizations that are not going to put up with too much if you're, not a professional. He is. But for whatever reason, the adversity staring him in the face seems to have kind of brought out the finger pointing. And I hope he turns it around because, he's been great in the postseason. We know he's a really, really good pitcher. And, I want to see the Diamondbacks make another little run and have their best foot forward. But him out of the bullpen, like, I get why they did it, but I don't really see how that stuff plays out of the bullpen either.
No, I don't really think it plays out of the bullpen because you've got him sitting next to Justin Martinez for the first 6 innings of the game. And like, I'm going to tell you who I'm pointing to in the 7th inning. He is effectively serving as a long man if shit hits the fan now. And you don't want Jordan Montgomery pitching at a deficit. Like, you want him throwing the 1st inning and throwing the 6th inning. That's who Jordan Montgomery is. That's where his value lies. It lies in accumulation and production over an elongated start. And it sucks that he hasn't done that this year, but again, that falls on him, and where he signed falls on him. It's not like it's a matching process. It's not like Scott Boras is playing matchmaker and it's, well, I already placed a client here, so I'm putting other guys elsewhere. And this team already has a certain number of Boras clients, so he's got to go here. Like, there's no jigsaw puzzle here. Jordan Montgomery knew of all the offers to him, and he had his choice. It's always the player's choice. It's nobody's choice but Jordan Montgomery's. He made that choice. He's not pitching well. And you're right. There's a lot of finger pointing right now, and it's really unfortunate. But I hope that he snaps it into gear. This just cannot be endearing to his Diamondback teammates either, considering that he's pretty much talking like it's a lost season for him.
Yeah, that is a good point. And they're playing good ball. And
they're playing good ball. Like, hey, we're in a position to make another run, to be another Cinderella in the postseason. You were huge for the World Series winner last year, but you're pretty much chalking up 2024 as an L right now. There's time to redeem this, and it feels like you're eliminating that possibility at redemption, which sucks.
Like, I'm trying to get past this, but like, that type of thing is really interesting. And now I'm fascinated by the contract side of things too, because if he really doesn't like the situation there and doesn't like throwing there, he hasn't said anything bad about, the org or anything like that, of course. But if it is that tough of a place to throw in, and that's part of the issue, and clearly, like you said, like, oh, I wish I had offers from, or heard about offers from other places, which again, does really sounds bad. I didn't really think about that side of it too. Like, talking about other offers at this point, like, dude, you guys are about to make a push for the playoffs.
And we're 4 months
player option for 20.
Man. We're like
player option for 25 million. I don't think anyone's going to be knocking down his door to beat that. So is he opting in? Like, that's even more of a reason why, like, there should be an incentive here to just get it right from just like the outward standpoint and inward, and that's where it's like, all right, man, you might be here another year. Like, just lock in, do what you can do now, and stop really pointing fingers. Like, just go pitch.
No doubt. Another guy trying to lock it in right now is Francisco Alvarez, the catcher for the New York Mets. And Alvarez was really good for the first week or so after coming off the injured list with that thumb issue. After that, he tapered off big time. And the lack of impact has been very apparent for a Mets team that is still hanging around the wild card conversation. And there was a fascinating story I read it in the New York Post. I know Tim Healy had it for Newsday as well. You have a better grasp on it than I do, but the gist of it is Francisco Alvarez feels like he has, quote, no power. Is that right? I feel like my power
Yeah.
is zapped.
Yeah.
Eric
I,
Chavez had some things to say about this too.
yeah. Do you have like the exact quotes in front of you?
Yeah, I do. So Eric Chavez, who is the hitting coach for the New York Mets, quote, everybody wants to talk about homers. Everybody wants to jump right into the homers. I told him, Chavez told Alvarez, I just want you to be a good hitter. In a few years, you'll be the best offensive catcher in this game, no question about it. I'll put my name on that. There's no doubt. But he just needs to learn how to be a good hitter. He doesn't think he's a good hitter at this point. I told him last year you hit 25 homers. Did you think it was a good year? Because I didn't. Oh my God. You look at all your numbers. I thought it was not very good at all. I said, when you came back this year from your injury, that's a good hitter. You'll learn to do the homer thing, but become a good hitter first and make consistent contact and hit the mistakes, then the home runs are going to come. Everybody wants to jump right into home runs. That kind of messes things up a little bit. I tell him he's got a Ferrari engine. I just need him to work on the brakes. He can drive the car at 100. I need him to drive it at 30. Once he learns to get control of his body, the better off he's going to be.
Okay, I understand the control of his body thing, but dude, you're telling a slugger who, like, I mean, the big part of why he is who he is the power to stop trying to slug. Like, that's not how this thing works. Like, and I just I feel like, again, it's kind of like the finger pointing thing from Chavez here, where it's like outside voices he cited as working against him. Like,
Yeah.
he's putting the ball on the ground at a 52% clip now. This isn't a guy that's going to hit 300. He's a catcher with power who has made a living on elevating to the pull side. He's not doing that at all now of late. And I think it's one of those things where you have to also look. I get what he's saying. Like, there are players where, like, yeah, you don't want to swing out of your shoes every time because, you got to be able to get your swing mechanics down first. I think that's applicable to guys at the lower levels and recently drafted guys. Why would you try to reinvent or adjust something for a guy that has already proven to have success at the major league level? And I also just don't like, and of course, like, again, Chavez has probably forgotten more about baseball than I know. So, like,
Right.
this guy had a successful big league career. I'm not saying that I know something that he doesn't. I'm more just frustrated with, I think, the application of what he wanted to try to instill. I think there's ways of letting a guy still lean into his strength without compromising that strength. Like, you can hedge a weakness while still leaning into some strengths and focus on some other aspects, maybe approach wise, maybe just some minor mechanic things that could make him a more complete hitter. But I don't really understand the tearing him down to build him back up thing. You can't do that in baseball. Saying, hey, your season that built confidence for you last year, me, a successful big leaguer who had a long career, I actually look at that season, that 721 OPS you had as a rookie catcher at 21 years old in the big leagues with 25 home runs. I look at that season, I actually think it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? Like, what would that gain? That's what I don't really understand, especially for a player that, has had some ups and downs. We've seen stretches this year where he was one of the best power hitters in baseball. So if you've seen that, wouldn't you want to just try to capture those stretches and see what was working there? Again, I think there's some components, maybe some things that he can improve to be more contact oriented, but I don't think that means you need to totally reinvent yourself and now be hit over power. And then the power comes.
Yeah.
Like, the power's always been there. Why would you undo that and try to start over again? It's a guy that's mashed all the way through the minor leagues, reached the major leagues at 21 years old, and hit 21 home runs as a rookie catcher. I don't care what his batting average was. Like, that is what this guy did. And through stretches this year was absolutely dominant. I don't know why you would get into a young hitter's head like that. Again, I think there's some positive sentiments to what he's saying and helping him become a more complete hitter. But if he's not slugging and he's still trying to find the hit tool, then he's just a struggling hitter, which is exactly what he has been. And that's where I just don't know why you would dome up a young hitter like that, especially a guy that also has to worry about duties behind the dish.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like I get what he's doing and I get the tough love thing and I appreciate the tough love thing and growing up, playing and even like learning how to, just be a better yeah, I'll tie it back to the work thing. Like even learning how to be a better announcer, like I can appreciate the tough love thing and I can appreciate the open criticism thing because, it'll point out things that are direct that like, hey, I need to work on this for sure. Not everybody's built for that, especially in like it is a generational thing. The way Eric Chavez grew up in the game of baseball in the late 90s, early 2000s is entirely different from the way that young guys are coming up in baseball in 2024. Like Francisco Alvarez, I think this guy is awesome and I think he has the makings of a young leader. But who's to say that he can take tough love in the same way that Eric Chavez got tough love in the late 90s? I don't think that's fair to assume.
Especially as you're facing adversity really for the first time in your professional
Exactly. In
career.
New York City, in New York, when you've worked so hard to get fluent in English over the last 2 years, like think about everything that has been thrown on Francisco Alvarez's plate. This guy missed 6 weeks with a thumb surgery, like with a torn ligament in his thumb. And the fact like that you're giving him this tough of love in year two when he's 22 years old, I don't see the point in that. I see the point in tough love, but like this is not the right situation to do that to somebody. And telling the New York media that you told your young catcher that you thought his season sucked last year.
That's the other part.
Like, what are we doing here?
That's the other part.
Keep that behind the closed door.
Exactly. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, I've never worked for a team. I've never been a hitting coach. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that is a better approach. And maybe, people that have worked in those situations would say, no, you know what, Arm, like it actually sometimes you need to do this with young hitters because they're too hard headed, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I could hear that.
Sure.
Where it's not okay is then going to the New York media and saying, this is what I said. Because to me, the only reason to do that is to deflect, right? It's a guy that, wants to preserve his job and a guy that doesn't want it to be reflected back on him as, hey, our young hitter struggling. What's wrong with the hitting coach? And of course, New York media, like they're going to want a scapegoat. That's why they're always going to want that. But if you're a coach, you've got to just be ready to wear that. Like you just have to. Otherwise, that's how you really lose a ball club. And I don't know if he is, but I doubt Francisco Alvarez is jumping out of his seat to get some more, info from him. Like Alvarez destroys fastballs. And you look at the average launch angle this year, 6.5 degrees. Last year it was 12 degrees. And I like cutting that in half for a guy that's going to be demolishing, just in terms of like EVs. Also, his EVs are down 2.2 miles per hour average exit velocity. So like, congrats. He's focusing on the hit tool. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, okay, even if you're going to make a little bit more contact, if the quality of contact is worse, what's the point?
There's no
and that's where I just don't totally get it. And he's really struggled with hitting breaking balls nearly as hard. It almost feels like he's gotten more mechanical now. And for a young hitter to just say, I don't feel powerful. He didn't say I don't feel powerful because of my hitting coach. He just said, I don't feel powerful. But then you have the other side where it's kind of pointing fingers. That seems to be the trend of the second half of this episode. And I'm just not with that, especially when you're a coach. Like just wear it, whether they're being hard headed or not. Like just wear it.
Yeah.
Keep it to yourself. But I'll tell you this, Francisco Alvarez is not going to be successful as a contact-oriented guy who's putting the ball on the ground more than 50% of the time. Nope. He's going to be successful as a power hitter who pulls the ball in the air, which he has consistently done throughout his career until this year. And when you look at what he did last year, like in terms of like success, he demolished fastballs, in particular four-seamers, where he hit 13 home runs on four-seamers. He slashed 290, 400, 753. He only had a 21% ground ball rate against four-seamers because if he got that pitch, he was lifting it, crushing it, and it was
celebrate. Yep.
Usually gone, right? This year, he has not performed nearly as well against four-seamers. And of course, a guy like Alvarez is always going to struggle against, quality secondary. I think he's just always going to have some swing and miss. But if you're not slugging the same way and nearly as consistently against the four-seamers, then you're going to even have a smaller margin for success because you got to perform better against secondary stuff. Like let him lean into that strength. His air pull, just percentage of pitches that you're pulling in the air against fastballs is dropped by 8%. That's really significant. Like it goes from slightly above average to well below average.
Yeah.
And now if he's not performing against secondary stuff, how's he going to get those numbers? He got those numbers very clearly from crushing fastballs. So I get it, wanting to be a more complete hitter, wanting to be better against secondary stuff. That can just come with comfort and development over time, just with reps and everything. Why would you try to overhaul this thing during the season? That's the part that I don't totally get. Maybe there's more that I don't know. But my biggest issue is, like you said, going to the New York media, who you know is going to take it and run. And the fact that you could say, oh, I saw it in Newsday, New York Post, this or that.
Everywhere.
Like, it's only making it more difficult for a 22-year-old catcher for a team that's also in the playoff race. It's crazy to me. Horrible timing. Don't get it.
No doubt. Last but not least, Oneil Cruz has a new position. He is not the shortstop for the Pittsburgh Pirates moving forward. He's going to do some DHing, but the Pirates, as it stands right now, are viewing him as a center fielder. Alex Stumpf of MLB.com tweeted out, Derek Shelton announces that Oneil Cruz will be playing center field with Nick Gonzalez back. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa goes to short. Alex followed up and asked Derek Shelton if this closes the door on Cruz at shortstop moving forward. Quote, I think as of right now, we're looking at him as a center fielder.
It's a great answer.
That means the door is closed.
That's my favorite. I love that's exactly how I would try to answer that question. I love the non-answer answers. It's great.
Right. Like it's hey, I didn't say it, but it sounds like the door is closed here for this.
Yeah. Because again, you know what the headline's going to be if he says yes, probably. Headline is Shelton says door is probably closed on Oneil Cruz playing shortstop. Right. So like there's a manager being aware of how his words can reverberate. And this is a much smaller market here in Pittsburgh, right? I like it. I'm curious what you think. You have seen so much more Oneil than I have. I have one concern, and I have a feeling you're going to echo it. How engaged is he going to consistently be in center field? And I'm not saying this to knock him. He's so talented. And he is a guy that I think really likes to be involved in the game. And, you know, we've seen stretches when he got sent to AAA and you saw it where it wasn't totally locked in. That was understandable because he felt like he should be in the big leagues.
Mm-hmm.
If he still feels like he should be at short, how locked in is he going to be in center? I think he's going to buy in. I think he's going to do it. And you know, he seems like a guy that does really play hard. But we just talked about first step and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You have to be as dialed in as an infielder. It's funny. I was actually just talking about this with Griffin because that's been a big thing that he's focused on, knowing that if he gets to the big leagues, like there's metrics to analyze everything. And if you like to squeeze out every drop of potential earnings to stick in the big leagues, whatever it is, like your first step, like you got to be dialed. And he told me, like, you know, sometimes in the minor leagues, like in the middle of the season, you know, you'll start to lose some focus in the outfield. And that was something that he really locked in on over the last couple of years. Is Oneil Cruz going to be dialed in center field, doing his, you know, steps before every pitch? And he needs to be. And if he does, this guy's a gazelle. He could be one of the better center fielders in baseball.
And he's got the best center field arm you've ever seen in your entire life.
Besides Brenton Doyle? Or do you think he edges Brenton Doyle?
Brenton has thrown a ball, what, 103, 106?
I thought it was 106.
Oneil can flirt with 100 across the infield. I think
if he takes a crow hop, I think he could push 106.
I think he could push 106, 107.
So that his strides, you know, he could jog to balls where like his head's not going to move as much, so he can glide and cover ground. I'm a little bit worried just about how big he is and getting close to the wall and things like that. And you know, but look at Aaron Judge. You know, there's some precedent now. Yeah, James Wood moves pretty well. I wonder about that. That's the one side, just being dialed in. But I guess to reel it back in a little bit, do you think this is the right move?
That's a great question. In terms of a baseball fan watching this guy play short, I think it's really exciting. And part of the excitement is he might throw a ball 5 rows deep. But the other part of the excitement is he makes plays that make you rub your eyes and take your glasses off. And it's like, did he really just do that? But Elly De La Cruz does the same thing. Now, Elly has made strides defensively over the last 2 seasons when Oneil Cruz really hasn't made strides defensively over the last couple of seasons. And I wonder if it's the lack of improvement at short that was the nail in the coffin for this moving forward. I think it was. If they saw a little bit of improvement and he went from a below average defender at short to an average defender at short, we're talking about this in a different light. And I don't think this is news. I think
Yeah.
IKF figures out a different place to play, and I think that he does some DHing.
100%. And I think when you look at Ellie, people cite the errors, but if you look at Ellie's range and why he grades out so well advanced metrically, like it's because of how hard he's worked on the footwork and how hard he's worked on reading hops, and you can see it.
Yep.
I don't know if I've seen that progress from Oneil, and it doesn't mean that he didn't work hard on it, but you just haven't seen it. So either, it wasn't there to like progress wise, and they just thought he was capped at the position, like he worked hard and it just hasn't gotten much better, or they felt like maybe he'd be a little bit more inspired at another spot because he wasn't seeing enough progress there either. Who knows? But he has the ability to be fantastic out there. I do wonder that if it weren't for Cabrian Hayes, if they would have just moved him to third.
They would have.
I always talked about that with
Absolutely.
Ellie Cruz, and I always said, like, if he doesn't stick it short, I think he could be a Gold Glove third baseman. And
Yes.
just based on how he, if he keeps growing, if he gets too big, it's just so hard to play shortstop at 6'7". Even Ellie's like a couple inches shorter. I think that makes a big difference. I think third base he could have been really darn good, but they've got Cabrian there locked up for a long time. And if Cabrian Hayes is not playing third base, I mean, what does he do for you right now? Because he's not hitting. So
Nothing.
that's the hard part here that unfortunately, forces him to center. But I think it's an opportunity for him to really. We just talked about the defensive value and things like that. Instead of being, let me fight to be an average shortstop, he could develop into a good center fielder, and all of a sudden, there's pressure taken off of the bat. Joey Gallo was an infielder, man. He turned into a really good corner outfielder.
Gold Glove
Oneil is
caliber.
way more physically talented, right? If he turns into a good center fielder, that really helps his outlook. So I think it's an opportunity for Oneil Cruz to he could earn more money from this
Yeah.
potentially too. Like this could actually elevate his career, and if he really buys into it.
I was going to say, I think the application of himself and improvement defensively in the outfield is the $50 million question. I think that this can be a $50 million swing for
Mm-hmm.
Oneil Cruz. If he proves to be a good center fielder, we're talking about a guy that still hits the ball about 120 miles an hour, has hit a ball 121 miles an hour. Like, this is who Oneil Cruz is. He's a freak of nature. The errors are brutal, but I have the numbers in front of me now. What do you think the difference is, outs above average, between Ellie De La Cruz and Oneil Cruz?
Oh, uh, I'm assuming O'Neill's negative, and I'm assuming Ellie is quite up there. 8?
14.
Ooh.
Ellie De La Cruz has 11 outs above average accumulated this year. Oneil Cruz is at -3 outs above average. That shows you the difference in similar talents. We call them both unicorns. How can you be a unicorn when there's two of them? But like Ellie has taken strides. Oneil, I'm not going to say hasn't taken strides, but
I've just seen them more offensively.
yeah, Oneil has, I think, stayed at a level that we were aware of, and Ellie has continued to extend by leaps and bounds and becoming the Ellie De La Cruz we dreamed of. Oneil's on a realistic trajectory. Ellie's on the superhero trajectory. And we were hoping that Oneil Cruz could answer that, and he
Yeah.
just hasn't to this point. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he develops in the outfield, but this is going to be a long game, I think. And you could be looking at Oneil Cruz as the opening day center fielder next year for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and that's kind of exciting. It's like a little Jazz Chisholm type thing.
Could be fun and makes the IKF acquisition look even better,
Even
especially
better.
because when he's playing good defense at short now, he's even more valuable.
Yep.
And this team's going to be really intriguing. And I think this being able to do this through the rest of the year as they kind of fall out of the race, it's a great way to set yourself up for next year as well, and see how he looks and get those reps and get that experience. So I think we're going to see a couple more shortstops fall off the board. Unfortunately, like there's been several young players that have been pushed a little bit, and they should and try. Like I'm wondering if CJ Abrams is next. There's a few shortstops that it's a different beast up there, man. It's not a knock on these players. It should be more of a reminder of how special these good defensive shortstops are at the big league level. It's I think one of the more impressive and underrated things in our sport is how hard it is to play even an average shortstop at the big league level.
And that outfield of James Wood, Dylan Cruz, and CJ Abrams is going to go so dumb. It's going to be awesome. Awesome. That'll do it for today's Just Baseball show. Every link you need is in the episode description. We are pumping out phenomenal editorial stuff every single day, highlighted by Ryan, Leo, Eric, and the rest of the awesome crew there. We'll be back to talk to you tomorrow. Go to a ball game in Denver. You have one more thing to say.
I was gonna say it was really cool. One of our editors, Leo Morgenstern, who does an amazing job, writes for us, writes for MLB Trade Rumors and Fangraphs. He's a rock star. He's the one that wrote up Griffin getting promoted on MLB Trade Rumors. So seeing that headline on MLB Trade Rumors was absurd to me because like I've been reading that obviously forever. And then seeing Leo
The
Morgenstern there,
byline, yeah.
it was so cool. Yeah, if I'm gonna be like Zach Hampel out there running down
Yeah.
his home run ball. So I'm gonna try, assuming he hits it out here. So looking forward to it. And yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool out here in Denver, one of my favorite ballparks. So excited to go get out there and talk to you guys later this week.